What's up, dummies? Today we're about to react to urban legends that turned out to be true. Look at this thumbnail. It's like a missing girl. She looks like she has Down syndrome. That's actually so sad. A Down syndrome girl went missing. But urban legends basically are conspiracy theories. They're very creepy things. So we're gonna find out about creepy things that ended up being true. This is gonna be insane. Shout out to this guy. 6 million views. This is gonna be good.
West Hobart Haunted House.
West Hobart Haunted House. We're gonna learn about a haunted house. I thought haunted houses were fake. Apparently it turned out to be true. Let's listen.
Hobart is an inner city suburb located in Tasmania, Australia.
Okay.
Over the years, dozens of allegations of supposed hauntings, ghost apparitions, and other paranormal activity have been made by tourists and residents of West Hobart.
Ooh, somebody made a YouTube video. Ooh.
And it's honestly not too hard to see why, as West Hobart is a pretty old town with a generally creepy vibe. As is usually the case,
creepy.
most of these stories have either turned out to be fake, or the people making the allegations didn't have enough evidence to support their claims, which makes it almost entirely likely that they're hoaxes. But as it turns out, at least one of these stories actually has some amount of truth to it.
Really?
Back in the late 80s and mid 90s, rumors started spreading of a house in West Hobart that was apparently so haunted it drove its residents insane.
Yeah, that's a haunted house. I can tell. Sometimes you can just see a house. Yeah, it's haunted. I mean, this got some glowing red eyes, a big nose, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a big nose.
At first, the rumors created a huge buzz all over town, with the locals doing everything possible to stay far away from the alleged haunted house.
Wow.
It wasn't until months later that the authorities got involved and finally got a clear picture of the situation.
Wait, they got the cops to go to the haunted house? Oh my gosh. Wow.
While it was true that the house's residents appeared to be going insane, it didn't have anything to do with paranormal activity, but with the fact that a datura vine had been growing through the trees directly above the home and dropping leaves into the family's rainwater tank. For a long time, the family had been inadvertently consuming microdoses of the plant every single day, which
Oh, so there was a plant that was falling in their water tank and they were drinking a little bit of this plant, and maybe this plant makes you like hallucinate.
made them slowly but surely start to lose their sanity as they sank further and further into delirium.
Wow.
In case you've never heard of it, datura is a species of plant within the nightshade family, also known as Jimson weed, the devil's weed, or devil's trumpet, and you'll see why in a second.
Okay.
Even though the plant itself looks pretty harmless, it's known for having extremely powerful hallucinogenic properties, which is why it was used for centuries by Native American tribes in coming-of-age rituals and other important ceremonies. The Aztecs also used datura as a painkiller in certain rituals, namely in ritual sacrifices, and it's also commonly used as an ingredient in the ritual of zombification in the Haitian voodoo religion, where it's referred to as the devil's cucumber.
Bro, okay, so this is why I don't eat plants and I don't eat vegetables, because I don't think we're supposed to eat that.
You probably tell by now, datura isn't your typical recreative hallucinogen, and there's a reason why it's really only ever used in hardcore spiritual rituals and ceremonies, and sometimes by naive people who have no idea what they're getting themselves into.
This video is sponsored by Polybuzz. So Polybuzz is an amazing app that you can download for completely free, where you can talk to so many different characters. You can do whatever you want. Like me, for example, I decided to become a police officer and I pulled over a random girl. So this is the girl. I'm a police officer and I just pulled over a random girl on a back road. She immediately said, "Please don't give me a ticket. I don't want a ticket. My dad's not gonna be happy if he found out I got a ticket." But then I asked her, I said, "Why are you speeding, bro? You're going 70 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone." And then she said, "I know. I was just trying to get to my volleyball sleepover on time." I asked her if she had any money, like maybe she could give me like $1,000 and I'd let her off. But she said she had 12 bucks and a volleyball membership card. I laughed right in her face. I said, 12 bucks? What am I gonna do with 12 bucks? Get 3 packs of gum? She didn't think it was very funny. She just kept begging me to not give her a ticket. But then I said, how about this? Let me go get something from my vehicle. Now, I wanted her to think that I was just gonna let her off with a warning. I went back to my vehicle. She was waiting, and I came back with the ticket and said, "Here you go. Have a nice day." She was so mad. She was like, "Dude, I'm going to my volleyball sleepover. Please, just give me a warning. I can't have this ticket." I gave her the ticket, walked back to the car, and drove away. And then, this is where the story turned up. She was so mad, and she said, "Great, just great. Now I'm definitely late, and I got a ticket." This day just keeps getting better. She ended up driving away, and she was so mad and such a bad driver that when she got to her coach's house for the volleyball thing, she crashed into her coach's house. Oh my God. She said, "This is the worst day ever. Now I crashed into the coach's house too. My dad is definitely gonna kill me." That girl is screwed. That's exactly what you can do with Polybuzz. You can just create crazy stories, talk to thousands of different characters, and just have fun. If you want to try it out for yourself and have some fun talking to random people, click the link in the description or click the link in the pinned comment to download Polybuzz for completely free. You don't even have to pay. It's pretty awesome. All right, let's go to the next one.
Cropsy.
This one's about to be creepy. Cropsy?
If you were to somehow go back to the 70s and spend some time in Staten Island, it probably wouldn't take you long to hear about an urban legend of a man named Cropsy.
Cropsy.
As the story went, Cropsy was a serial kidnapper and killer who lost his son and resorted to stealing other people's children to deal with his grief.
What? Dude, this dude lost his son, so he started stealing other people's kids?
According to the legend, Cropsy also had a hook for a hand, scars, burns, and open wounds covering his entire face and body.
Okay, so I don't believe this, but this video is things that turned out to be true. Now, if I would have just heard about this, yeah, right, nobody looks like this, but this is actually gonna turn out to be true. Oh my god.
And a generally horrifying appearance. Considering the mass areas of uninhabited woodlands, it's not all that unexpected that a tale like the legend of Cropsy would make it into the mainstream culture at some point. Unfortunately, this wasn't just a tall tale made up by Staten Island parents to keep their kids from venturing too far into the woods and getting lost. Although the legend has some obviously made-up elements, such as the hooked hand and the horrifying scars and burns, at some point in the early 70s, children in Staten Island really did start disappearing.
Really?
That's when the line between legend and reality started to blur, and the story of the real Cropsy immediately replaced the urban legend. This is the real story.
Oh gosh.
Andre Rand was a man from Manhattan who was born in 1944 and moved to Staten Island in the late 60s. After working for 2 years at the infamously brutal Willowbrook State School for Children with Disabilities, Rand was arrested in 1969 and served over a year in prison for the attempted attack of a 9-year-old girl.
What?
As soon as he was released 16 months later, reports started
He got released after 16 months in prison when he attacked a 9-year-old girl. How do you go? You need to go to jail for life. What do you get from attacking a young girl?
Popping up of more little girls disappearing all over Staten Island.
Oh, more girls started disappearing when he got out. Makes sense.
Including 5-year-old Alice Pereira, who was playing in her building's lobby when she suddenly disappeared without
Bro, look at how cute she is, bro. What is wrong with him?
Over the next decade, Rand was the prime suspect in the disappearances and deaths of several other young girls in the area.
Oh my god, he even took a Down syndrome.
But it wasn't until 1983 when he picked up 11 kids from a local YMCA and brought them fast food before taking them to the airport that he was finally arrested and sentenced to 10 months in prison again.
Bro is drooling, bro. This is why you don't eat fast food.
Throughout the 70s and 80s, dozens of young kids disappeared in Staten Island, and although Rand was often the last person to be seen with them, there was ultimately never enough evidence to put him away for a long time. For many years, he would often be seen hanging around young kids, going on walks with them, and even taking them to lunch and dinner with him at local restaurants.
Wait, what? He was taking kids to dinner with him? I thought he was in jail.
After years of letting him walk the streets as a free man, police would finally have a breakthrough in the case in 1987 when they found undeniable evidence that Rand had been behind the disappearance and murder of Jennifer Schweiger, a 12-year-old girl with Down syndrome. In 1988, he was sentenced to 25 years to life, and while he was behind bars, more and more evidence was found that tied him to several other disappearances in Staten Island in the 70s.
Come on, bro.
Unfortunately, he was only charged with one additional major crime in 2004, which was the kidnapping of Holly Ann Hughes, thanks to which he will spend the next 13 years behind bars until 2037. If he lives that long, he'll be 93 by the time he gets out.
He's gonna get out? What the Send him away forever! This guy obviously has issues, bro.
The Maine Hermit.
The Maine Hermit?
The Kennebec Valley is one of the most beautiful regions in Maine, with over 5,000 square miles of forests, rolling hills, and natural paradise surrounding the Kennebec River.
Okay.
Many cabin owners of the North Pond area in the Kennebec Valley have described the area as the most peaceful place on Earth.
Okay.
But it hasn't always been that way. All throughout the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, there were reports of over 1,000 break-ins in the North Pond cabins.
1,000 break-ins? No way this is gonna be one person breaking into 1,000 houses. How do you even do that, bro? He's definitely going for like gold camo or something on his crowbar.
For decades, nobody knew who was responsible for the thefts, especially since they were always carried out when there was no one home. As the cabin owners soon noticed, the break-ins seemed to follow a pattern, always peaking in the days before Memorial Day and after Labor Day. As for the stolen items themselves, they ranged from food, to cooking utensils, to books, to propane tanks, to toiletries of all kinds.
Bro was stealing food, books, propane tanks, toiletries. Imagine breaking into a house and you're stealing some Febreze, bro. You know how stinky you gotta be?
In the absence of a concrete suspect, the locals eventually named the thief the North Pond Hermit, even though by this point there was nothing to suggest the break-ins were being carried out by a single person. Although it wasn't uncommon for groups of homeowners to venture out into the woods to try to find the North Pond Hermit, they never found a trace, which only added to the legend's mystery.
Oh, so the people who lived in these houses, they were trying to find the robber. That would be awesome. Finding the person who robbed your house, beat them down.
Noon in 2002, 100 people attended a North Pond homeowners meeting, and when someone asked how many of them had suffered break-ins, almost all of them raised their hands. As you can probably guess, the North Pond Hermit quickly turned into somewhat of a boogeyman, with the legend frequently being shared over campfires in the area.
Bro, I really want to find out who did it, bro. Robbing thousands of houses? Hopefully they tell us who did it.
For years, nobody thought that the person or people behind the break-ins would ever be found. But in April 2013, a man named Christopher Thomas Knight was arrested in the middle of the woods in the North Pond area by an officer who had made it his sole mission to bring the thief to justice.
Who is this?
As soon as he was brought to the police station, the cops asked him why he wasn't answering any of their questions. At first, it seemed as though he was having trouble speaking, but eventually he responded that he was ashamed of himself. As it was later revealed, Christopher had been living out in the middle of the woods by himself in an unheated nylon tent, surviving only on the things he stole from nearby North Pond cabins.
No wonder he grabbed some toilet paper, bro. Bro was pooping in the woods. And dude, using leaves is not a good time.
Shockingly, he had survived winter temperatures of 20 degrees below zero for years and hadn't been to a doctor or taken any medicine for 3 decades. What's most incredible about the hermit's story is that for the entire time he lived in the woods, he didn't have a single conversation with another human being, except for one time when he ran into a hiker and only said hi.
Bro, he didn't have a conversation with someone for 3 years. All he said in 3 years was hi. Bro.
Understandably, Chris had lost interest in keeping track of time.
Look at this. They found his base and stuff.
So when he was asked how long he had been in the woods by himself, he replied, since the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown, which took place in 1986. As investigators later found out, he was 20 years old when he decided to become a hermit, just a couple of years after high school.
Bro, this is what he looked like when he started robbing. So he did this for multiple years.
Though he never gave the authorities a real reason why he decided to disappear. In all his years of isolation, he went to extreme lengths to preserve his privacy. He never lit fires, only moved at night, and hadn't had any kind of communication with the rest of society for more than half of his life.
Wait, not even just 3 years. I got it wrong. He was doing this for 10 plus years? He was doing this for 10 plus years. He would never light fires. He would only move at night, and he didn't talk to anyone for 10 plus years.
He'd never driven a car, sent an email, or even known what the internet was until his arrest.
Wow. So this guy became like a hermit in the middle of the woods before the internet, before email, before he got a car. Wow, this is actually a very interesting story.
Interestingly, as the cops dug deeper and deeper into his story, they realized that his only real possessions were his glasses, which he had been wearing for 30 years and could even be seen in his Lawrence High School yearbook picture from 1984.
That is so, the only thing he owned was glasses, and everything else he would steal from people. And he's still wearing the same glasses.
Everything else, down to his underwear and jacket, had been stolen.
Bro stole underwear. Nah, bro. Nah, bro. Imagine you buy a new pair of underwear and you're like 6-pack, right? And you leave it in your house. And then you come home and there's only 4 left. And you're like, who took 2 of my underwear? People are stealing underwears. This dude literally lived off of everybody else's stuff. The only thing he owned was his glasses. Wow, bro, this dude was the most advanced thief ever.
For the investigation, Knight was sentenced to 7 months in prison, after which
bro got 7 months for robbing 1,000 houses.
He once again disappeared. According to the cops, he's now living a quiet, peaceful life in rural Maine.
That was
Purple
insane.
Aki.
Okay, here's the next one.
Throughout the late 1980s and 90s, rumors of a massive bodybuilder called Purple Aki began to surface in the northwest of England.
Okay.
According to the allegations, Purple Aki would supposedly walk the streets of Liverpool hunting down young muscular men and rugby players and oddly ask them if he would let them feel their muscles. If they complied, he would allegedly squeeze their muscles for much longer than was considered socially acceptable and would then ask them to perform squats so he could feel their quad muscles. Some teenagers reported that Purple Aki even went as far as to ask them to pose for him, and often offered exercise and nutrition advice for those who gave him the time.
Okay, but what's wrong with I mean, if these people told him to stop grabbing their muscles, did he stop? Because then there's nothing wrong with it. Like, maybe this guy just really likes muscles. Maybe it's not super creepy, you know? Like, maybe this guy just really is intrigued about muscles. Is this an actual video of him?
Because the rumors were so incredibly ridiculous, nobody really took them too seriously at first, and eventually the story of Purple Aki turned into an urban legend, with crazy details being gradually added to the tale, including one where Purple Aki would allegedly swallow teenagers whole if they let him feel their muscles. But as time went on, it became clear that Purple Aki wasn't just a made-up character created by bored teenagers looking to get some laugh from their friends, but a real person named Akinwul Arobic. Aki was often seen traveling across England by train carrying a plastic bag and asking young men if he could feel their muscles.
Wow.
Naturally, this made a lot of people uncomfortable, and it wasn't uncommon for Aki's face to be featured in local newspapers after several encounters with the law. Most of the accusations against him were related to his creepy behavior around teenage boys, but around 1986, the story of Purple Aki took a really dark turn. Early that year, 16-year-old Gary Keller was walking home from school when he ran into Purple Aki, who immediately asked to feel his muscles. Freaked out by the weird request, Gary said no and ran away. Later that same year, Aki followed Gary to a local outdoor swimming pool, and when the teenager noticed, he ran to New Brighton train station and jumped onto the railroad tracks to get away from Aki. Sadly, the story ended in tragedy, as Gary was accidentally electrocuted by one of the rails.
What are you doing jumping on a railroad track? Just punch him.
The whole thing happened because Gary was being chased. Purple Aki was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, charged with harassing 14 different teenage boys, and sentenced to 2.5 years in prison.
I feel like that's kind of harsh. I mean, maybe this guy just liked muscles. Maybe he was creepy. Maybe it was weird, but like...
In 1988, Aki filed an appeal and complained that the only reason he had been convicted was because he was black. Ultimately, the judges agreed there wasn't enough evidence to prove Aki had been directly responsible for Gary's death.
I agree.
Believe it or not, he was freed and awarded £35,000 in compensation.
I agree. I don't think he should have went to jail. Like, I mean, it does sound weird asking people if you can feel their muscles, but like, I don't know.
Between 1988 and 2006, Aki went in and out of jail for failing to resist his compulsion to touch, feel, and measure other people's muscles. And in 2003, he was arrested for an additional 15 charges of harassment and witness intimidation.
People are taking pictures with him like he's a celebrity.
For which he was sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Why'd he go?
Just like any other predator, he was also forbidden from waiting outside schools in the area. A few months later, he was jailed for 15 months for getting up to his same antics. Upon his release, he was once again arrested a few weeks later in 2010 and then again in 2015. After his latest release, he reportedly moved to Leeds, where rumors started cropping up that he had passed away during the pandemic. However, those rumors were put to rest when videos started surfacing in 2023 of Aki walking the streets of Leeds asking random dudes to, you guessed it, feel their muscles. As of today, Purple Aki is alive and well, and will probably continue in his same behavior with or without permission for many years to come.
That is kind of creepy, but it's not creepy. Like, it just depends. If he asks these people to feel their muscles and they're like, no, and he still tries to do it, then it's weird. But if they're like, no, he's like, okay, cool. Like, maybe he just likes, muscles. If he asked me to feel my muscles, I'd let him.
The Bunny Man.
The Bunny Man. Wait, I think I've heard about this. Okay, let's see what it is.
In the early 70s, dozens of locals started reporting that a man dressed up as a bunny had started haunting the residential neighborhoods around DC, Maryland, and Northern Virginia. Although dressing up as a bunny in itself seems pretty harmless, what made the encounters a little scarier was that the guy would allegedly threaten children on the street with an axe.
Oh, okay, yeah, bro. A dude in a bunny suit threatening children with an axe. Nah, bro.
Vandalize people's property for no apparent reason.
See, that is...
Even though sightings of the so-called Bunny Man were pretty rare, they seemed to follow a pattern, as the man usually appeared in secluded locations where there weren't a lot of witnesses. The story itself has a lot of elements of a typical urban legend and is kind of hard to believe, but through my research I found that it's all loosely based on a true story. In 1970, a couple was parked in a driveway close to a bridge on Colchester Road in Fairfax County when suddenly a random guy appeared out of nowhere, yelled at them for allegedly trespassing, and threw a hatchet at their car. Terrified, the couple left the area immediately before they had a chance to get a good look at the guy. As they reported the incident to the police, they mentioned the guy had been dressed in light-colored clothing and may or may not have been wearing something white on his head. Although the couple never mentioned